Today, we're going to take a look at a report from Headset on Florida, looking at a high level overview of their medical market in a quickly evolving industry. It can be obviously challenging to identify unique opportunities. So, with a $1 billion sales in Florida so far this year, Florida is the largest medical cannabis market in the US. So aside from the market's impressive size, there's distinctive sales trends and consumer preferences that make Florida a nuanced market to watch as the industry moves forward. So we're going to take a look at this report from Headset on the Florida medical market, take a closer look at their share, their market share, their cannabis product categories, basket metrics, pricing, all of that coming up.
It's only entertainment.
Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast. Total sales in Florida, you can kind of get a sense of where cannabis is at within the U.S. They've got a little over $1 billion in sales from January through July. So that's just behind Illinois and ahead of Colorado. Currently, the Florida only allows the sale of medical cannabis. So as we've seen with every other rollout, medical will eventually die off. Simply when regulation opens up, it doesn't make sense financially to have a medical license. You get maybe 10% off if you have a medical card, but the cost of the card, unless you're buying a lot of cannabis, the cost literally doesn't, the discount, that 10%, then never pays for the cannabis. I got a store down the street. There's 30% off 3 days a week. So anybody can get 30% off. And the medical cards literally just don't pay for themselves. It's not worth it, except if you want to grow. In Washington, it's a felony if you don't have a medical card. So if you're going to grow and you need that, otherwise going to a store, every single medical rollout just dies because there's no reason for it. Looking at monthly sales of cannabis volume, you can see total sales and unit volume within each month over the past year. And across a 12-month period, Florida averaged about 147.5 million a month. That's 5.5 million units or SKUs in the month. So interesting. In December, they had the highest total sales of any month in the past year. And there's a lot of snowbirds maybe in Florida, but I also think that New Year's Eve is going to be the biggest day of the year for cannabis. It's not going to be 420 anymore. 420 was a big deal because it's 420 and they had the biggest sales. COVID happened and everyone had to re-engineer how they were selling discounts via social media, text, whatever. That became the predominant way of getting people in the door. And then now, at this store I go to down the street, Fridays and Tuesdays, you have 30% off. So you can go in and get 30% off the entire store. Saturday is online only. So you go on a Saturday, you order online in advance and 30% off. So that's the standard now. And that's why it's taking away sales from 420. So you're going to see more sales on New Year's Eve, more sales on the 4th of July, more sales on traditional holidays than 420. I think probably 2019 was the last year that 420 was a significant sales day. People just don't want to wait in line and have a crazy day. There was tons of people this last year because I do 20 stores on 420 every year to kind of see where the market's going, what the industry is doing. And there's a lot of people who had no idea that it was 420. They just happened to be there on that day. And I think maybe that's the majority. They either don't know or don't care. Similar to a lot of other markets in the U.S., Florida sales, they've experienced some ups and downs. And since September of 2021, Florida's had an average monthly growth rate of just 1%. So that's the overall stagnation of the U.S. market. And when you compare that to Illinois and Arizona, their sales swing and have been less severe. So maybe more consistent demand in the Florida market. There was a lot of folks who stayed at home, increased their edible usage during the beginning of COVID, and that ended up increasing sales. So Headset had another report about consumer sales. And so when you strip away the COVID sales, there's a slight increase rather than this crazy swing up and down. So essentially COVID just increased the amount of sales. People had these stimulus checks and they were spending it on cannabis. Right after the stimulus checks came out, there's a massive spike in sales. So you can directly correlate the increase to the additional amount people were able to spend on it. So if you had an increased additional discretionary spending, bam, that's when it went directly to cannabis. Take that away, sales decrease substantially. Couple that or compound that with inflation, forget about it. People are pulling way, way back. So definitely a retracement from the highs that we saw, directly correlated to stay at home and extra income from the government. Take those two things away, people are going back to work. They don't have the money. There's inflationary pressure and they're not spending as much. Looking at the category sales compared to the US market, we're focusing on 5 largest product categories in Florida's market. They have flower, vape pens, concentrates on the high end compared to other markets. One exception is Maryland's market, a flower at 46%, dwarfs all other markets. We're hitting around 40, I think, on average with flower. It's just coming down, whereas almost 2/3 of all sales are everything but flower. And second, third are jockeying of pre-rolls and vape pen cartridges. Maryland's the only other medical market on this analysis as well. So Florida's market, their edibles are low, about 11% of total sales, but their market share of pre-rolls is less than 6%. So very conservative market there. Limited license state, conservative. So pre-rolls are often chosen as an impulse buy. They're easy to share, and so that makes sense. From maybe medical patients might be less inclined to purchase from that kind of category where they're just off by themselves, probably using a bong or whatever. So not the same demographics as recreational sales. When you look at smaller product categories, there's more significant differences between Florida and other markets. So when Florida medical patients choose tincture and sublingual products much more frequently than shoppers in other states, and conversely, beverages are minuscule, probably due to regulations in the market that don't allow the sale of ready-to-drink infused beverages. They're probably still really expensive. Instead, the only products legally available is dissolvable powders, so water-soluble powders meant to be mixed in other drinks. I actually see that as way better. The grab and go, like nobody has grab and go coffee. Coffee is the number one drink in the United States, ahead of water, and yet we're not infusing it. So people just want these sugary lemonade beverages, and it's not what people want. They're not going to spend $20 on a lemonade drink. Yes, they spend $7-8 a day at Starbucks, but Starbucks isn't this overly sweet drink. And I say that laughing because a mocha is nothing but sugary, but it still has this coffee flavor, right? Whereas lemonade is nothing but sugar. So there has to be some kind of balance there with what people are buying. And beverages are incredibly expensive with very low margins, one of the most competitive SKUs you could possibly embark on. And yet all of these people are trying to do it. And so most of them will fail. And that includes growers, retailers, processors, everybody. Most of them will fail. 8 to 9 out of 10 will fail, simply because you don't have 400 tomato growers in any one state. Look at Oklahoma, look at Oregon. Too much. There's too many. They're not going to survive. Look at beer. You're only going to have like 3 main companies out there. And then within that, they're going to have all these different SKUs or whatever. So that's not, I don't go for macro companies. I want like the local, but I'm just telling you what we're going to have is very, very similar to what we saw in the beer market and coffee market, where Tully's tried to come in and Tully's went away. Starbucks is still here, but now you got all these mom and pop stores and all these weird niches like bikini baristas. I don't know if you have those in your states. They originated in Nevada, came to Washington, and now you're going to find them in Oregon and other areas as people want, I don't know, tits and coffee. It's a weird thing, but it's local, it's available, it's priced right, it's convenient, all of those things that people enjoy. Cannabis is going to have to find that nuance. Is it going to be local? Is like why are they going to do that over a big, Canadian processor, for example. I mean, Canada's screwed. They're toast. But in order to rise from the ashes, you're going to have to come up with something different, that's marketable, that's local, that's something that people want, that's better quality, all of those things. And we just don't have that consistency and availability in the market yet. Looking at the basket metrics of average basket size and average number of items per basket, Florida's the second largest, average basket size of $96 behind Maryland. So a lot of people are going in there buying as much as they can because they either are far enough away where they don't want to buy a lot. It's not convenient. They probably don't have delivery. And so when they're going out, they're buying more than they need. That's what I'm guessing. So, and it's common. This is kind of a regular occurrence that we see. Medical patients are buying a lot more. It could be also out of state folks, snowbirds, for example, people that are just in the area, in the state temporarily. Florida also has more items in their baskets, 3.6 items on average, which is more than other markets, including Maryland. So Florida patients tend to purchase slightly less expensive individual products than Maryland. Maybe that's because they're trying to try new things. Maybe that's because they're older and more frugal. It could be a lot. It's kind of hard to infer from the data why, but my guess is it's probably just testing and trying things out. Prices are coming down like they are everywhere. So when we compare the trends in average item price across the U.S. markets in July, the average pre-tax price of cannabis products in Florida was $25, significantly lower than Illinois at $36 on average, but still higher than the average price of products in Colorado at $19. So as been previously reported, the average item prices are dropping across the industry, and Florida is no exception. So January to July, average price of cannabis products in Florida declined by 9%. Cannabis is one of those things, I've said this a few times, where the inflation that we're seeing in gas prices and housing and everything else is not hitting cannabis, which is really bizarre. There's a deflationary pressure on cannabis because of the competition. There's so much competition. And I think that's really the biggest difference is this is an inefficient market. And that's why if the efficiencies were there, they'd be able to manipulate the prices and increase them like every other industry has. But in a place like Washington State, where it's not vertically integrated and there's 2,000 SKUs when you walk into a store, there's a massive amount of competition. And so that's why you're seeing average prices drop, in Florida, like they decline 9%. And you're seeing that everywhere. We're going to keep watching trends in different states and industries grow. We're going to ask the question if tinctures and sublingual shares are going to decrease or if pre-roll shares are going to increase. I'm guessing that both of them will increase. Customer baskets, are they going to shrink or grow over time? All of these things that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Florida, you got to come back to the Talking Hedge to find out.
With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.
Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.